And good morning, it's day 19, July 2021. This is New Day Kenya, and a warm welcome to the broadcast this morning. We'll be talking about the crisis in the ruling Jubilee party and the party that is not sitting pretty. The president's party has called for top officials meeting this week at its headquarters in Pangani here in Nairobi County to discuss, among others, the humiliating loss in the hands of William Ruto's United Democratic Alliance in the concluded Kiambaa parliamentary by-elections in the county of Kiambaa, or if you may like, the president's home turf, or if you may like, the house of Mombe. And the reason as to why allies of the president are now going for Tuju and Murathe, who they accused of mismanaging the campaign process in the build-up to the Kiambaa parliamentary by-elections that was conducted last week on Thursday, and what this portends generally for the country's political health and since multi-party democracy, the lifetime longevity of political parties after an electoral cycle, and why the Jubilee party is at the moment experiencing fragmentations, just like the opposition National Super Alliance, NASA, and how to address this political problem in the country. I'll be taking the account of the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Farah Maalim, an economist and political commentator, that is Dr. Joseph Rotich, who will be here with us shortly. And we start off with the tragedy in the county of Siaya, and a section of leaders from the county have sent their condolences to the families and relatives who lost their loved ones in the fire incident that claimed 13 lives and injured more than 10 on Saturday night, after they were fetching fuel from a petrol tanker which overturned and exploded in Malanga village. Area residents say the tanker that was heading to Busia County from Kisumu County hit an oncoming vehicle that lost control and veered off the road and overturned.
A fuel tanker exploded in Malanga village, Siaya County, while people were siphoning fuel from it, killing 13 people. Sub-County Police Commander Charles Chacha said Sunday. According to eyewitnesses, the tanker, which was transporting petrol from Kisumu to Uganda, hit a milk transporting lorry that was heading in the opposite direction before veering off the road and rolling, landing near the school fence.
Usiku nikiwa nalala, nikasikia mlipuko. Kuamuka kukimbia nikuje, nikakutana na wenye walikuwa wanachomeka wakikimbia. Watoto, wamama, wakina baba wakikimbia. Kukimbia kuja kufika hapa, tukapata gari inaungua hapa, na watu wengi walikuwa hapa wenye walikuwa wanachomeka. Saa wenye kuzima moto wakikuja kuzima hiyo moto kuangalia hii line yote, kulikuwa na watu wenye walikuwa wamechomeka, wakina mama, wakina watoto, wakina baba, wengi walikuwa wamechomeka hapa.
A total of 29 people survived in the incident. 19 of them are admitted with burns at Siaya County Referral Hospital, while 5 admitted in Inuka Hospital, while another 5 admitted at Yala Sub-County Hospital. Witnesses say that amongst the people that lost their lives include women and children. They say it took the fire brigade from Busia at least 3 hours to put off the inferno.
Moto ilikuwa kubwa sana, hatungeweza kufika karibu. Na kulikuwa na watu walikuwa wamechota mafuta ya kwanza wameenda. Wale walirudi ya pili ndio wale wameungua, ndio wale mafupa ambao mnaona iko mahali hapa. Kuna watu ya pikipiki, kuna wamama na kuna watoto.
Watu walisudia hapa kukuja kuchota mafuta. Mwanzo wenye walitangulia kukuja walichota mafuta wakaenda nayo. Kurudi trailer ikalupuka, ilichoma watu. Hapa penye tuko hapa, wamama wamechomeka hadi na watoto pamoja na wanaume.
Leaders from Siaya County have sent their condolence messages to the families and relatives who lost their loved ones in the accident. Despite warnings from authorities of the dangers of siphoning after the deaths of hundreds of previous accidents, many locals continue to do it because they are pressed by poverty.
And that story is equally covered on the front page of the People Daily this Monday morning. And village loses 13 people in tanker tragedy. Disaster at night. All the victims who were siphoning fuel from the accident truck at Malanga Trading Center on the Kisumu-Busia highway on Saturday night knew one another. This story is highlighted on page 5 of the publication. And a picture of course, the wreckage of the overturned tanker is equally highlighted. And a picture of James Omolo, who was injured at the fire tanker tragedy speaks from his hospital bed in Yala Sub-County Hospital. Villagers mingled around the remains of the lorry involved in the fire incident. And detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI Homicide Unit have been dispatched to Elgeyo Marakwet County to unravel the mystery death of fugitive policewoman Caroline Kangogo. The death of Kangogo brought an end to a 10-day search for the 34-year-old policewoman accused of double homicide case, and the move comes after the police say that she committed suicide, and many casting doubts on the theory presented by the authorities. Kangogo was found lifeless in a pool of blood in her parents' home in Elgeyo Marakwet County with a Siska pistol in her right hand. Detectives, however, are also studying the lengthy SMS Kangogo is believed to have written in the wee hours of Friday morning before allegedly taking her own life. And in the message, she blames her actions on her failed marriage that drove a wedge between her and her family, saying that depression is real and please assist those who you know. My divorce pushed me to inhumane and my father disowned me due to my failed marriage. And to the county of Nyeri, where the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi now says that he was misquoted about plans to revive the opposition National Super Alliance coalition. Musalia, while in a charm offensive tour in Nyeri County, reaffirmed supporters that there are no plans of rebuilding the NASA coalition, accusing the opposition chief and ODM party leader Raila Odinga as dishonest person. And as our political affairs reporter Jeff Kiambaa now tells us, the ANC party secretary general Godfrey Osotsi has fired back at Musalia Mudavadi, accusing him of playing a second fiddle.
It's not yet over until it's official in the divorce marriage among the NASA partners. These are some of the divergent views emanating from some of the NASA principals, comprising Musalia Mudavadi of the ANC party, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya, and the ODM boss Raila Odinga.
Kwa sababu jana nilisema kitu na watu wakajaribu kugeuza. We must look forward. NASA is the past. NASA is history. Let us move forward. Let us build new partnerships.
Senator Sakaja, nyinyi mnatuambia na mnasema kabisa we are in Jubilee. Na alafu mnaambia Musalia ajipange tuonane. Na alafu tunasikia usiku mnaenda kuonana na watu wengine na hamkutuuliza. Mnatafuta shida za NASA, mnataka kuleta Jubilee. Hii hadithi kwa nini tuachane na hii kitu?
ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has insisted NASA died long time ago, and what is remaining is when the coalition will be buried.
Na sasa sitazungumzia hiyo maneno tena, because I've said we shall move on and we shall now look at other arrangements as we go on.
We in Jubilee, because I'm in Jubilee party, we're waiting for you to finish with the past. Finish with the past, look to the future. We are looking for new friends. We want to expand and grow our party because you've seen what happened. Mheshimiwa Kioni, you've seen what's going on in our party. We will not let Jubilee die.
Kama mnataka tuende na Musalia, si tuende tu na Musalia. Muache hii mane. Sababu hii ya usiku tunasikia hamkutuuliza, mnatuambia tuko na watu hapana hiyo hapo, we are not very happy about that. But let him tembeeni na yeye mkimuelekeza.
But Musalia Mudavadi's sentiments have sharply been opposed by his former Secretary General Godfrey Osotsi, who says Mudavadi is playing double standards.
I want to say that if there is anyone who needs to be blamed for the limitations around the NASA coalition agreement, it is not Raila Odinga, it is not Kalonzo Musyoka, it is not Moses Wetangula, it is my own boss, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. Because first of all, why would you go for Dana Mayo? The person who messed you in the Madimon agreement, the agreement between him and Uhuru Kenyatta. He brought him on board to act as the lead lawyer in this very important process.
Calls to revive the nasty marriage of the NASA coalition are on high gear, with some of their principals insisting it's not yet over until it's over. But ANC boss who joined the faithful of the PCA Moringato Church, those of the Abundant New Life Church and the Sacred Heart Catholic Church of Endarasha, Nyeri County for a Sunday service, accused Raila Odinga of being dishonest in honoring coalition agreements, and even as the 2022 general elections nears, each and every the then NASA coalition principles has remained firm will be on the ballot to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Kwa sababu tukisema watu wanataka kuturudisha, wanaturudisha. Please, Kenyans, let us look forward.
Put my party leader in your prayers as he traverses this country, as he looks for more friends to join him to ensure Kenya is restored.
Na safari ya kesho inapangwa leo. Sasa tunataka tu wakati utakuwa unazunguka, ukiona ni vyema utafute mtu mwingine kutoka Mount Kenya awe running mate wako, we will really appreciate.
He was the founder of NASA. So if you are the founder of the NASA, build the house so that we can enter the house. So he built the house and the others entered, and then now he's the first one to complain about the same house. In fact, I find it so ridiculous that people like Sakaja, people like Malala, who are not in ANC, they are talking the loudest about the NASA coalition. Sakaja was not there, he was in Jubilee. Malala was in ODM, he wasn't there. They have not even read the NASA coalition agreement.
Mudavadi winded up his today tour, a charm offensive mission in the vote-rich Mount Kenya region, ahead of the August 9, 2022 presidential contest. The ANC boss and his One Kenya Alliance counterpart, Kalonzo Musyoka, are in a mission to team together to wrestle with the Deputy President William Ruto and the opposition leader Raila Odinga in the coming polls. Reporting for Ebro TV, I'm Jeff Kiambaa.
And the push for a bottom-up economic model approach dominated the airwave in Kilifi County, with the Deputy President William Ruto insisting the need for the common mwananchi to be considered before the political class. The second-in-command, accompanied by a host of political leaders while on a three-day tour of the coastal region, apportioned blame to the opposition of stifling the ruling Jubilee Party and administration agenda through the constitutional reforms, or the BBI. Jeff Kiambaa with more on the details.
The Deputy President William Ruto for the second day pitched tent at the coastal region. Ruto, accompanied by several leaders, reiterated the need to implement a bottom-up approach enshrined in the Jubilee administration, poking holes at the opposition leader Raila Odinga of stifling the process.
Ukisema ya kwamba tunataka kubadilisha uchumi wa Kenya kama vile tulikuwa tumepanga kutoka 2017 mpaka sasa, wakakuja wakasabotage ile mpango ya housing ambayo ingepatia vijana kazi, wakasabotage ile mambo ya agro processing value addition na mambo ya kilimo, wakasabotage maneno ya universal health coverage.
Ruto is on a charm offensive to secure a 2022 win, as vowed to accommodate the common man in his administration should he be elected as the fifth president. According to the second man in command, constitutional reforms in the country is not a priority.
Wakituambia ati kubadilisha katiba ipatikane vyeo na kugawana mamlaka ni ya dharura na ni priority kuliko kupatia vijana mamilioni kazi na wale hawana biashara wafanye biashara. Na ndio tumepoteza miaka 4 tukizunguka, mara rege, mara katiba, mara tubadilishe. Leo mahakama imesema hiyo harakati yote ni illegal, unconstitutional, null and void, na miaka 4 imepotea.
With the 2022 general election just around the corner, each and every political leader yearning for the top seat is angling for an agenda aimed at transforming the lives of the common mwananchi. The ODM leader Raila Odinga, in a detailed statement on Sunday, proposed for an establishment of a permanent human resource body as the key to attaining a homegrown industrialization. Raila Odinga says there is need to consider both the skilled and the unskilled labor force. According to the former Prime Minister, the proposed body will help identify the skilled youth, organize domestic skills competition, pick the best performers, and send them to represent the country to the world. William Ruto, in his part, is confident the bottom-up approach is the new way to go.
Na ndio tunawaambia wajinga wameisha Kenya. Safari hii hatuwezi kukubali watusumbue eti tubadilishe katiba, ati wapate vyeo, ati wagawane mamlaka. Tunasema safari hii tunabadilisha uchumi. Tujenge uchumi kutoka chini tukipeleka juu. Hatuwezi kungojea ya juu ati tutegee hapa chini.
The leaders who accompanied Deputy President William Ruto in Kilifi County and Kwale assured him of full support, even as they celebrated the recent win in Kiambaa and Juja parliamentary by-elections. Ruto is among the front-runners in the coming polls, where Raila Odinga is touted as his tough competitor.
Niona mikono ya hasla. Niona mikono ya hasla iko hapa.
Reporter for Ebro TV, I'm Jeff Kiambaa.
Tuko na Ruto. 2022 ni Ruto.
And detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, have arrested a man suspected to have lured and killed 5 minors after defiling them. According to the DCI, the suspect, identified as Evans Wafula, lured the minors and aged between 10 and 15 from different locations within Moy's Bridge in Uasin Gishu County, where he defiled and killed them. While speaking to Ebru Television in Uasin Gishu, the family said that they are now hopeful that justice may be served.
The Directorate of Criminal Investigations has arrested the main suspected serial killer who has brutally murdered 5 young girls after assaulting and defiling them. The DCI said the minors, all aged between the age of 10 and 15, were lured by the suspect from different locations within Moy's Bridge in Uasin Gishu County before being taken to secluded areas where he defiled and strangled them.
Nataka tujue mpaka wenye walikuwa wanatuma huyu jamaa kuua watoto wetu. Sababu huyu mtu mimi simjui. Anajua mwenye alikuwa na mtoto wangu jioni hiyo. Alizunguka na yeye hiyo town. Nataka ataje mpaka hao watu washikwe.
Mtoto wangu mwenye alikuwa anaitwa Grace Njeri. Aliwa kifo uchungu sana. Kifo yenye Moi hata watu walistuka. Alikatokatwa na kafichwa mwezi moja. Tulihangaika mwezi moja tukimtafuta tukumpata. Mara ya mwisho tumeenda kwa DCI kujaribu tupate haki, lakini inakuwa ngumu. Maaskari ya Moy's Bridge walificha mpaka form za postmortem. Wakati mtoto wangu alifanywa postmortem ndio haki ikosekane.
Evans Wafula took the detectives on a reenactment of how he lured the minors identified as Linda Cherono, 13, Mary Elusa, 14, Grace Njeri, 12 years, Stacy Nabiso, 10, and Lucy Wanjero, 15 years of age.
Kwa kweli vile nilisikia mtoto wangu amepotea hiyo tarehe 15 hiyo, niliweza kuwa na uchungu sana. Nikajaribu kutafuta mtoto wangu, sikumpata hiyo siku. Hadi siku ya kufuata ndio nikaweza kumpata tarehe 16. Mtoto wangu kumbe ameuawa. Na sikuwa nimejua nani ndiye aliyefanya hiyo kitendo.
Mimi ndiye ambaye mtoto wangu aliuawa mwezi wa pili. Hawakuwa wameanza kesi. Tulikuwa tunashindwa ni nani, lakini wakati hao wakubwa wamekuja kutoka Nairobi, tunaona tukiendelea kupata ukweli. Naambia Mungu aendelee kuchukua kazi yake.
Further reports indicate that Juma is a habitual offender with several warrants of arrest issued against him. DCI said he would be arraigned in court to answer the charges of murder contrary to Section 203 and read with Section 204 of the Penal Code.
Mimi ndio baba ya Mary Elusa mwenye aliuawa tarehe 15 Disemba. Tumeshindwa nani aliua huyu mtoto. Tangu Disemba tumeshughulika. Lakini leo tumeshukuru DCI wa kutoka Nairobi wamekuja na mstakiwa, ametupeleka mpaka vile alikuwa anakamata mtoto na mahali alikuwa anaenda kumuua.
This comes just a few days after another suspected serial killer, Mastan Milimo Anjala, claimed he single-handedly massacred his victims, sometimes sucking blood from their veins before murdering them.
And Kimilili Member of Parliament Didmas Barasa has opposed the gazettement by the government of Chitembe Hills to be government forest land, terming it unconstitutional. The Member of Parliament said he is surprised by the attempt of the Environment and Forestry Cabinet Secretary Keriako Tobiko to gazette the area, terming it unacceptable, as the place is home to over 30,000 people who have lived there since time immemorial and have land ownership documentations, according to the Member of Parliament.
Chukua shamba yao na kulifanya shamba ya serikali atikue forest.
Speaking in Malindi, the legislator said there was no public participation done prior to the government making the announcement, adding that Kimilili constituency people are concerned that there is no place for internally displaced persons who will be displaced by the gazettement of the forest.
And these people are going to be declared homeless. Some of them will be found in my constituency trying to find a place to survive. And that Kimilili constituency has been a home of very many IDPs from Mount Elgon, and we are not going to allow any increase in IDPs because the people from Chitembe Hills have had their land declared government land, forest land. So this is not going to be allowed by all of us.
He said as leaders, they are concerned because the gazettement targets part of Kimilili constituency and engaged lawyers to go to court and challenge the gazettement.
As far as I'm concerned, the people who live along Chitembe Hills have title deeds. They own those land. So you cannot now, therefore, go to declare a piece of land, forest land, when people there have been having forest. But you know, by declaring it a forest land, what it means is, therefore, that the title deed that are owned by people stands, dissolved, stands cancelled.
According to the legislator, the ancestral land that belongs to the Chachoni community, and they will do all it takes to protect the land, including physically resisting any attempt by the government to take over the said land. Baraza said the move is a clear indication of the government's greed without considering the community being displaced.
We already have engaged serious lawyers who are filing this matter in court with a view to quash that decision by government. And even as we await for the court decision, we will stand firm and physically resist any attempt by government. Any officer who will be seen patrolling around Chitembe Hills atakiona cha mtema kuni.
The MP said currently the area has begun attracting tourists and they cannot allow the incompetent CS, who is almost finishing his term, to gazette Chitembe Hills as a forest.
We know that the government has been unable to settle even Mau evictees. The government has been unable to settle even the victims of 208, 207 post-election violence. So if the government has been saying that they do not have money, we cannot therefore not allow them, again, to inconvenience another population of Kenyans in the name of gazetting Chitembe Hills as government forest land.
And Education CS Professor George Magoha has suspended the proposed administrative changes in the University of Nairobi, saying the changes must follow the law, while lauding the move by various institutions across the country to ensure their academic and administrative structures conform to the financial muscle. The Cabinet Secretary termed the proposed changes at the University of Nairobi as illegal. The move might bring a reprieve to the University of Nairobi students who had earlier threatened to go on strike if the changes were not revoked.
The changes announced by the University Council last week continue to raise concerns among stakeholders and students. The changes touched on reorganization of the administrative structure, which included abolishing 24 constituent colleges from the normal 35 to 11. The changes also aimed to abolish 5 offices of the Deputy Vice-Chancellors and replace it with 2 positions of Associate Vice-Chancellors. According to the University Council chairperson, Professor Julia Ojambo, the new reforms were meant to break down the bureaucracy for the benefit of the institution's stakeholders. In the letter that was copied to the head of Public Service, Joseph Kinyua, and Attorney General Kihara Kariuki, Treasury CS Ukur Yatani, among others, CS Magoha ordered that the changes be suspended until they are given a green light by relevant authorities. As a part of its restructuring, the University of Nairobi had announced that it has increased fees for postgraduate courses and parallel degrees in order to ease a cash crunch in the institution.
We are managing more of not really infectious diseases, but more of communicable diseases. And these are conditions that require specialists. But when the government, through the University of Nairobi, increases the fees threefold and some fourfold, it's a clear indication that they don't need these specialists to be graduating from the Kenyans.
It doesn't make sense for the salaries and remuneration to claim that there will be no increment of salaries or allowances. Now, if there will be no increment of salaries or allowances, it means that it will be impossible for any parent to make an upward adjustment of fees, whether in secondary, in college, or in university.
This led to demonstrations by students who are also joined by KMPDU and a section of MPs who condemned the proposed increments. The students are now calling on the CS to intervene, specifically on the school fees stalemate.
And I want to urge all comrades to prepare for a do-or-die face-off. We are giving the government until Monday to address our situation, or else we are going to call for a mass demonstration across the country.
So I want to call upon the President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, to ensure that tuition is free in the institutions of higher learning, and also to increase the HELB allocation. In the same course, they must also substantially reduce the interest rate which is charged on the student loan.
In a letter to the CS, the students, through their council, urged the ministry to release an official letter of the same gravity as the one suspending the restructuring of the university leadership regarding the proposed school fees in public universities.
Was that we got a sneaked proposal by the university administration that was signed by Professor Kiambaa on 19th of May 2021 before a retreat. And we were wondering why were the student leaders not considered in the engagement to increase this fee. We want to tell the administration that failure to involve UNSA is like creating chaos, and we are going to create chaos. We are going to demonstrate, and we are going to the streets.
The students have threatened to go on strike and picket if their demands are not met.
And West Pokot County Governor John Lonyangapuo has hinted on ditching the Kenya National African Union Party KANU after he disclosed that he has formed a new political outfit that he will use in the 2022 general elections to defend his seat. The governor dismissed allegations of having a Pokot party, saying that the new party will have a national outlook. The governor also accused area Senator Samuel Pogishio, West Pokot County Assembly Speaker Ms. Catherine Mukenyang, and the Deputy Governor Dr. Nicholas Atundoyang for allegedly having a plot to finish him politically.
All leaders, including wale nilikuwa nafanyia wao kengele juzi. Si mnajua mimi nilikuwa ni kiongozi ya KANU. Mimi nikaongoza, Pogishio ananifuata, yeye ni senator yangu. Bila mimi angepita. Kila speaker akasimama kama umerep. Msichana akaanguka kichwa chini mguu juu. Nikalete yeye kuwa speaker. Ama nini? Mnachekea nani? Niseme ama nisiseme? Niseme ama nisiseme? Alafu mwingine absentee. Bibi yake iko ngambo. Kila kitu iko ngambo. Nikaweka kama deputy kwa sababu nilisema yu atalete neema ya Mungu area hii. Mtu mwenye ameinteract na wazungu. Wazungu atakuwa anakuja hapa tu ovyo ovyo. Wacha ningoje. Anakuja na kupotea anakuja. Sasa nikahangaika. Huyu atakuja, huyu atakuja. Mpaka nikashikwa na EACC ati unazuia mjeuri. Nikazuia mtu mpaka ndani bwana, karibu nilale masaa 3 ndani. Sasa ile nimetoka ndani, badala ya kunishukuru ananitusi. Ananitusi. Lakini kaambia Mungu tu niokoe tu na nisaidie na nichunge hii ulimi.
And away from the politics in the county of West Pokot, the United States of America troop withdrawal from Afghanistan is raising questions about who will fill the power vacuum left in America's wake. And in Moscow, the Kremlin officials are skeptical, eyeing recent Taliban advances and how they might affect the neighboring buffer states in Central Asia. According to the Voice of America partner stations, Charles Mains, who reports.
With U.S. troops heading home, Russian officials are publicly enjoying the moment.
The U.S. is not just withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. They are withdrawing, effectively admitting the failure of their 20-year mission.
Russian President Vladimir Putin initially endorsed the U.S. military operation, in part because the American presence de facto resolved Russia's own concerns about a terrorist threat in Afghanistan. But with the U.S. now on its way out, analysts say the Kremlin is openly worried that renewed fighting and masses of refugees could spill over into neighboring Central Asian nations, allowing Islamic extremism to spread in a region traditionally under Moscow's sway.
Thinking about its own security, Russia has absolutely no choice but interfere in Central Asian republics in case the situation there will be unstable.
In recent days, Russian officials hosted Taliban representatives for talks in Moscow, with both sides seeking security guarantees. Taliban negotiators claim their fighters now control 85% of Afghan territory, but ruled out attacks on Russian military allies like Tajikistan, with whom Moscow shares a collective security agreement. Yet already several thousand people have streamed across the border amid clashes with Afghan government troops.
Okay, maybe Talib leaders are exaggerating when they say that they control 85% of territory, but their deployment on Tajik border is a real fact. They control Tajik border.
Meanwhile, political observers at home have been quick to point out the irony of the Kremlin negotiating with a group it officially deems a terrorist organization, even as it cracks down on Russian opposition groups like Alexei Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation, and what many see as a similar extremist pretext to ban members from fall parliamentary elections.
Navalny and his followers would never be allowed to gather in Moscow. But if you're the Taliban, why not? If that's what the authorities want, it's hypocritical and cynical. Even the Taliban is allowed to do what political opponents of the Kremlin are not.
Having fought its own deadly decade-long war in Afghanistan in the 1980s that ended in defeat, few think the Kremlin is eager to engage again militarily. But as the American role in Afghanistan ends, the danger is that spiraling circumstances on the ground could force Russia into entering the void. Charles Maines for VOA News, Moscow.
And of course, from the ongoing talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government following the U.S. withdrawal of its troops from Afghanistan, we come to a short break here on the broadcast. When we come back, we'll be taking the account of my panel here on set in regards to the political developments over the weekend. In Nyeri County, the ANC party chief, Musalia Mudavadi, has hinted at 2022 presidential stab at the presidency, and the Deputy President, William Ruto, re-emphasized more on his economic model to uplift Kenyans from the depths of despair to the great heights of hope. And of course, the ODM party chief, Raila Odinga, who insists that there is need to put money into the pockets of the common mwananchi. All that after the break on the broadcast. And welcome back to the broadcast. We take a look at the publications here on New Day Kenya, and this is what's coming up on the front pages of the People Daily. The highlight of the day is on the Kiambaa parliamentary by-elections, where the United Democratic Alliance Party, UDA, won the by-election that was held on Thursday last week, defeating the ruling Jubilee Party's Kariri Njama, who came second in the by-elections following the death of the late MP Paul Koinange, who equally served as the chairperson of the National Security Committee of the National Assembly. And here's what's coming up on the front pages. If we can have that up, Kevin, probably, to take a look at the pages. And this is as highlighted. You can see on the front page. And this is the ruling Jubilee Party, where the fallout continues to intensify following the win by the United Democratic Alliance Party candidate Njuguna Wanjiku, who is reacting to his supporters moments after he was declared the winner on Thursday. And in terms of those who are on the sports, David Murathe is the Jubilee Party Vice Chairperson. Raphael Tuju is the Secretary General of the party. Adan Kainan serves as the Secretary to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. And Kanini Kega is the Kieni Member of Parliament and the Chairperson of the Budget Committee in the National Assembly. The Secretary General Tuju forced to fight off claims that he and the party vice chairperson David Murathe bungled last week's by-election, and this of course points to perhaps what appears to be the concerns that were raised by party members who are allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta, and this kicked off storm in the party over the Kiambaa parliamentary by-elections laws, and the party had called for a crisis meeting this week on Wednesday of its officials to chart the way forward as top leaders deny bungling the by-election. The concerns expressed as a result of the preparations process and why the locals in Kiambaa constituency were not involved in the campaign process, and despite losing by 510 votes to Wanjiku, who garnered 21,773 votes, and against Njama's 21,263. What this portends in terms of the lifetime longevity of political parties in the country is a growing concern since Kenya became multi-party democracy in 1992, and how political parties often collapse after every electoral cycle. And, of course, the concerns at the moment and the experiences of fragmentations by both the ruling party, Jubilee, and the opposition National Super Alliance, NASA. The fallout on how President Uhuru Kenyatta will be able to manage this, and besides also his succession in the Mount Kenya region, this happening in the House of Mombi, and the election which was billed as a face-off between the President and the Deputy President, William Ruto. And according to a member of parliament who spoke on condition of anonymity, he said, "I have heard some people saying that we were responsible. I am only a Secretary General and an employee of the party." This is Raphael Tuju. Some of the high-ranking members who are saying that are my bosses. It will be impolite for me to respond to their claims, and this is in the aftermath of the parliamentary by-elections defeat in Kiambaa constituency in the county of Kiambu. And it came after the defeat equally in Juja parliamentary by-elections, where the Jubilee Party was defeated by the Moses Kuria Party, People's Empowerment Party, PEP. And of course, in Msambweni parliamentary by-elections, that the Jubilee Party did not field a candidate, but equally the ODM Party was defeated. And we now take a look at the expansive nature of this story on the next elements. And this is a soundbite from Musalia Mudavadi, who yesterday spoke in the county of Nyeri in the company of the Governor Mutahi Kahiga. And Musalia was accompanied by the Nairobi County Senator Johnson Sakaja. And this is what Governor Mutahi Kahiga said alongside or in the company of Musalia Mudavadi, the ANC party leader, during a church service in Kieni constituency.
Senator Sakaja, nyinyi mnatuambia na mnasema kabisa we are in Jubilee. Na alafu mnaambia Musalia ajipange tuonane. Na alafu tunasikia usiku mnaenda kuonana na watu wengine na hamkutuuliza. Mnatafuta shida za NASA, mnataka kuleta Jubilee. Hii hadithi kwa nini tuachane na hiki?
Kwa sababu jana nilisema kitu na watu wakajaribu kugeuza. We must look forward. NASA is the past. NASA is history. Let us move forward. Let us build a new.
Ukisema ya kwamba tunataka kubadilisha uchumi wa Kenya kama vile tulikuwa tumepanga kutoka 2017 mpaka sasa, wakakuja wakasabotage ile mpango ya housing ambayo ingepatia vijana kazi, wakasabotage ile mambo ya agro processing value addition na mambo ya kilimo, wakasabotage maneno ya universal health coverage, wakituambia ati kubadilisha katiba ipatikane vyeo na kugawana mamlaka ni ya dharura na ni priority kuliko kupatia vijana mamilioni kazi na wale hawana biashara wafanye biashara. Na ndio tumepoteza miaka 4 tukizunguka, mara rege, mara katiba, mara tubadilishe. Leo mahakama imesema hiyo harakati yote ni illegal, unconstitutional, null and void, na miaka 4 imepotea.
And that is the Deputy President William Ruto in the coastal region on a 2-day visit after the UDA party associated with him won the parliamentary by-elections in Kiambaa constituency in the county of Kiambu, and also the soundbite of the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi in the county of Nyeri, in the company of Nairobi County Senator Johnson Sakaja and the Nyeri County Governor Mutahi Kahiga. The bottom line in all the soundbites that we have played of the political leadership is that the preparations for 2022 is on, but the ruling Jubilee Party is experiencing a crisis. This week there's going to be a meeting of the top officials at its Pangani headquarters here in Nairobi County to discuss and do a post-mortem of the outcome of the Kiambaa parliamentary by-elections following the defeat by the United Democratic Alliance Party candidate Njuguna Wanjiku in last week's by-election on Thursday in Kiambaa constituency. The former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Farah Maalim, is with me here in studio. Thank you for coming. Your time is always appreciated, and many thanks on this very important day for the Muslims in the calendar of December equivalent of the Dhul Hijjah, where we mark the all-important gathering of the pilgrims who are meeting in Mount Arafat in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much for coming. Your time is appreciated. What's your post-mortem of the Kiambaa parliamentary by-elections outcome? We talked about this for some time here in our previous interviews.
Yes.
What's your thinking into this?
The Kiambaa parliamentary outcome is neither an approval of Ruto, nor a disapproval of the other side. The Kiambaa by-election results is a disapproval of the manner in which Uhuru is trying to handle the succession process in this country. It is a disapproval of Uhuru's choice. It's a disapproval of Raila as a president for Central Kenya, not an approval for Ruto, because they are convinced that the handshake essentially means Uhuru wants to hand over the reins of this country to Raila Odinga.
And that was part of the narrative in the build-up to the election day.
Yes. And that basically sums it all up. So everybody needs to go back into drawing boards right now. And this country has never taken kindly to an anointed successor.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
For the case of 2002?
Yes. No, from 78. From 78. The what you call the change the constitution, what you call narrative that moved on, that wanted to retain the presidency as the presidency within the mountain region, or with the to be more specific, actually within the Kikuyu community. And the country was not happy, was not ready for that, and basically played out until the incumbent died a natural death. And then, of course, the constitution had to be protected. They even tried to kill the former president, what they called the Ngorokos those days, Moi, but that even failed. You know what I mean? Then Moi tried to anoint Uhuru as his successor. Miserably failed. I don't know what exactly Kibaki had in mind, but Kibaki had wisened up from the old, whatever, all the history of the country itself, plus the fact that there was more of the deep state that time that was responsible for the result of that election.
Okay.
And then we also got into that terrible cycle of violence after that. So for Uhuru to try and anoint the leader now is not going to work. It has to be a process, and it has to emerge naturally.
So these
alliances and these coalitions that are forming together right now can form together and form. You know, Kibaki had no chance if LDP had not come to him that time.
In 2002?
In 2002. There was no way Kibaki was going to have it that easy.
Okay.
If the renegades from Kanu had not come on board on this side, and the country had gone on basically a frenzy and finally decided, for the sake of this country, let's all come together and let's all support one candidate. And that's how Kibaki came in. Basically, a mood in the country which I call the constitutional moment in this country, the national moment, the Kenyan moment. If that was going to be, and I don't blame Kibaki for it because he was sick, he had an accident, and literally it was just the lieutenants around him who were running the stage. It's not him. Although he abused it immediately, all the trust that was placed in him was immediately abused. And when you look at his conduct later on in the coalition government, then you begin to give him a bit of a benefit of doubt and say, look, this man was not himself that time. You see what I mean? Because of the accident and the strokes, he had a series of strokes, Kibaki. It's a miracle that Kibaki is basically the way he's right now. Every doctor in the olden days used to give him less than a year. But you see, it's a miracle. The man is...
That's beyond our comprehension.
Beyond human comprehension. It's God's will that is there. But I remember talking to one of the former ministers who said, look, he's got about 6 months to go. And I'm talking about 2002 when he came he became the president.
He was literally bedridden.
He was literally bedridden, and everybody expected the worst. But the same guys who were speculating that he's likely to go anytime, most of them went. And he's still around. You know what I mean? That tells you, and you're a Muslim, I'm Muslim. And we know the qadr. Qadr comes from God. It doesn't come from a doctor or anything.
Yes, fate.
Yeah, but the way he conducted himself in the coalition government gives me reason to believe this man was an honest and a good man, even in the beginning. But because he was a bit sick that time, he was sick, seriously sick, and he had these lieutenants around him, they're the ones who defined the narrative that time. So what I'm trying to tell you is that anybody who tries to anoint a successor in this country is doomed. Is in for for a surprise. So that now is not working, and that's why my friends, many of my friends, including the coalition which I'm part of right now,
that is One Kenya Alliance.
Kenya Alliance. Okay. We're saying, look, let's come together. We're not telling who to come and anoint us. No. Contrary to what the deputy president alluded to.
That the opposition is seeking the endorsement of the president.
The opposition is taking the endorsement of the president, and that the president is too busy trying to line them up and manage them instead of running the government affairs. I mean, that, in my opinion, is a bit of a hogwash because we are not waiting for Uhuru to anoint us. You know what I mean? We want to get the grand coalition of this country.
Okay. And I'll come to that because I'll also be seeking your account as to what your party leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka of the Wiper Party, and you deputize him, political plan. I mean, the president hasn't made clear that he will support certain candidate, and he's on record as saying that they think because Uhuru is going home in 2022, he will not have a word on what will happen. This was in November 2018. I'm telling them, he said, that when the right time comes, I will have something to say. But nonetheless, there was a narrative in Kiambaa constituency. Our political affairs reporter, Jeff Kiambaa, spent 48 hours before polling day, and he came back with a litany of the ground response. In a way then, in electing the UDA candidate, Njuguna Wanjiku, a political novice literally, about 3 months ago he was abducted for organizing a border event for the Deputy President William Ruto. He was found clothless somewhere in Eldoret, in Uasin Gishu County. Was it then a protest vote of how the ruling Jubilee Party is run?
Yes. I mean, this country is in every sense of the word, is in its ICU, it's in intensive care unit. We are insolvent. You get my point. We don't have any liquidity. We're broke as a country. Economically, we're in our worst. Security-wise, you can see how people are getting abducted every day. Small children are being killed now for people assume the human organs and other things every day. And the maintenance of law and order is as bad as you can see it is. The political class has gone haywire. Corruption has completely unbridled. There's nothing to hold it back. It's just like letting a horse go without a lace and run. So basically, every way you look at it, families, drugs, abuse is in the country so rampant that you don't understand what kind of younger generations we're going to have in the future. And it's being done right under the nose of all these people. And rumor has it that very big, powerful people are involved in some of these things. And it's bad. I mean, we are selling our country. It's like we don't, this is not our country. It's like we want to make the best out of this country and go and live in another country, which we're going to call ours. I don't know which country that is. The saddest part of it.
Okay.
In the past, we used to say, look, with all the corruption we have in this country, this is one country where people steal the money and invest it back into our own, what do you call, economy here. I don't think that's happening right now. I don't think that's happening right now. Because investing back in this, the better investment opportunities all over the world. All over the world.
Meaning they deposit that in offshore accounts?
Absolutely.
Safe haven.
Safe havens out there, and then look for a better place. Go to Congo, go to Tanzania, go to Uganda, or even other countries and do business. Somalia, maybe, you never know. Anytime. What I know is myself, that there's more business opportunities right now in Somalia than you can possibly find here. And so basically, they are, with all its insecurity, and actually we should be happy. Well, I wouldn't say happy because they say one man's poison is another man's food. Ethiopia had this war with the north, the Tigray. If that war had not happened, there would have been an investor trooping into Ethiopia like hell. Already, Safaricom is there. And you can imagine what is the presence of Safaricom itself is a very powerful magnet globally. What do you call the direct foreign investment, DFIs. There's a lot that's flowing into Ethiopia right now. People say in a few years' time, in another 10, 15 years' time, Ethiopia was going to become a middle-income country, which we are not, by the way. So basically, when you look at it in that broad sense, we have had 9 years of utter hell in this country. Unbelievable. We never had this kind of... okay, there are a bit of infrastructures here and there. We're getting this... very beautiful road that's coming now.
Mega infrastructure.
Mega infrastructure. Okay. But at what cost?
What perhaps your good friend Professor Peter Kangwanja last night called the Roosevelt moment, Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes. But he admitted that many Kenyans are concerned there's no pocket, there's no money in their pockets.
You bring in SGR and you destroy the road transport in this country completely. You destroy the economy of all the towns that are from Nairobi to Mombasa. You destroy the economy of Mombasa itself. I mean, the restitution and the poverty in there because of that multiplier effect that was there before is unbelievable. And all for what? All for probably the little commission these people make out of the Chinese.
Okay.
Because it's costing us probably 100+ billion Kenya shillings more than ordinary it would have cost us. Only one lane again. So when you look at these things, we have had terrible 9 years. And by the way, this business of trying to pass the buck and say that we will come up with another hustler. No, this is the same person who was telling us about the double digit and everything else.
I'll come to that because
the responsibility for the mess we're in now is a collective responsibility of the president and his deputy.
Okay, yes. and the DP William Ruto was very categorically spoken in Kwale County about that, and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga is equally championing for an economic model where he says, according to the Secretary General of the party, Edwin Sifuna, that ours is meant to put money into the pockets of the common mwananchi, and how their scramble for the majority poor in the country is apparently one that is likely to form the base of the 2022 elections. I'll be coming to that later. But first, let me have this soundbite from Musalia Mudavadi, because by the time we were playing that, you were being mic'd, so probably you might not have him, you might not have heard him clearly. So this is what he said in Nyeri County when he was hosted by the Governor Mutahi Kahiga in the company of Nairobi County Senator Johnson Sakaja.
Kwa sababu jana nilisema kitu na watu wakajaribu kugeuza. We must look forward. NASA is the past. NASA is history. Let us move forward. Let us build new partnerships. That is the NC party leader. Apparently, he is in the same coalition lineup, the One Kenya Alliance, with your party, Wiper Party. And he has expressed interest at the presidency. Before we come to whether your party leader or Moses Wetangula and the NC party leader Musalia Mudavadi on who will be the flag bearer, given what he said, is the opposition outfit NASA dead?
opposition outfit, NASA, is dead for all intents and purposes. Practically, is dead like a dodo. And he did not die now, he died much earlier. And the small issues that happened that essentially were not able to be resolved. Plus the very fundamental issues, very fundamental issues that were deliberated, decided, and agreed upon before NASA went for the elections, which was that Raila was not going to run for the presidency come 2022, whether he wins or he loses, regardless of how.
So you agreed on that?
Yes, agreed, yes. Yeah. He was there. He was there. And the letters are there. And at the opportune moment, some of those things are going to be brought out. And there are many people who are aware of that. So when you can't trust somebody's word. You know, let me tell you one thing. Many people wonder why, generally, globally now, not just in Africa, globally now, Somalis are doing very well in business. It's not that they're any smarter than the other Kenyans or the other Africans or the other Middle Eastern guys, or even nowadays in Turkey, their Somali businesses are just far too many. It's because of trust of the word. You shake somebody's hand and you give a million Kenya shillings, or $100 million, $10 million, and you exchange them on the trust of the hand. You don't go to a lawyer. You don't write.
There's no third-party engagement.
Absolutely. You just write between yourselves and you keep that. If one of you passes on, the first thing he does is to come and account to the rest of the families of the deceased and tell them.
Ordinarily, that's done also, traditionally, at the graveyard.
Yes.
When the person,
at the graveyard, you are told if anybody has any claims on this dead body, dead person, let him now
reach out to the family members.
Reach out to the family members. And there are people who take responsibility for it. Which means that you protect the words of even the man who is dead. And that's why we do business, and that's why they do business very well. In politics, we need to understand that that is the way to do politics too. You have to trust somebody. If you can't trust somebody's word, how do you trust that to an individual? How do you trust that person's word to a nation?
In this case, assuming an authority.
Absolutely. He assumes an authority and he's going to rubbish everything. I mean, that's exactly what happened. Uhuru and Raila and Ruto came together. Uhuru saying my 10 years and Ruto's 10 years. You see what I mean? And now he comes out and says, no, he's not going to trust this country in the hands of a thief. If he doesn't say it himself, his lieutenant says it. And it's just
Murade was very categorical.
As much as there. I'm not going to support Ruto for all the whatever it is, but basically that's the situation. You get my point? So if Raila cannot be trusted on his word, and by the way, you're talking to somebody who has been with Raila for close to 30 years.
Okay.
From the first time when we got this multi-party, what do you call dispensation?
Early 1990.
91, 91, 92. And we're together in 92. Went for elections. And a good friend, very good, very, very close
And you
friend.
said you voted for his father all along.
I voted for his father and I voted for him all along. Every election that I voted, except the one he did not run, which was the one of 2002.
Yep.
2002. I voted for him and I voted for his father before that, in 1992. In 2002, I voted for Yachai. You get my point?
Tell me that.
I told you that, yes. So basically, what do we have now? What kind of a situation do we have in the country now? We have a situation in the country in which the political class cannot be trusted. Would you trust Ruto for a moment? You must be dumb or so daft to trust that man for one moment. You know, let me tell you one.
Okay.
Would I trust Raila? No, I would never trust Raila. And I've done this, you know, we literally, it turned, you know, we somersaulted and did everything and tried to justify this, tried to justify that, to stay with him because he was the model. He basically was the doyen of political opposition in this country here. And those of us felt, you know, this man has suffered, he was in detention, he suffered for this country. But I'm beginning to have my doubts about that suffering now. So if he insists that he has to be the one, and he could not, what do you call, respect that pact, that handshake.
Okay.
Why do you worry about the handshake right now in front of Harambee House? Each one of them, Uhuru signed a contract with Mudavadi in which he said he was going
to... Madimoni.
And he said, demons came to me later on. You know what I mean? And then you think such a person is going to respect a handshake in front of Harambee, or the one who is also in the same handshake, who has had so many handshakes and so many pacts and so many write-ups, and never respected any of those ones. No.
Okay, but you have mentioned trust, which Musalia Mudavadi also underscored as being very important. And he said the reason as to why we are unlikely to resuscitate the opposition National Super Alliance, he said, is because of the trust deficiency. Now, the ANC party, your party, Wiper, and the Ford Kenya party of Moses Wetangula, KANU to some extent, under the umbrella of the One Kenya Alliance. And Kalonzo has insisted all this time that he will not play a second fiddle again. In this lineup, probably if you head into 2022 as partners on the One Kenya Alliance coalition, say, will your party leader or your party still play a second fiddle, or you will go for the top job?
Look. We in One Kenya Alliance would, at the end of the day, come together and decide on a common candidate. There's no question about that. Common candidate. When you say we'll not play a second fiddle specifically, it's like we have had a tradition, we have a history here. That history will never be repeated again.
Which is not to be...
Which is allowing Raila to run for this, and you
without Raila, in that One Kenya Alliance is what I talked about.
I think in that One Kenya Alliance, the luminaries in that, what they call One Kenya Alliance, have the capacity to come together under one umbrella. So that's what you have to take home. That is your take home for today.
If they do so in the next 11 months when we head to the polls, presumably, predictably, how will the lineup look like?
I don't want to, basically, because I am an inside source, and everybody's going to take that as gospel truth. I'm not going to discuss that on this television interview today.
Okay.
But I can assure you that the One Kenya Alliance is going to come with one candidate.
Okay. So let's now hear from the Deputy President, William Ruto, who also spoke over the weekend in Kwale County, where he talked about the opposition parties and the opposition leaders of seeking the presidential endorsement. And he categorically said that 8 million Kenyans woke up 3 a.m. in the morning on the 8th of August 2017 not to elect the president, to be disturbed by the opposition parties as to who will be endorsed. And he also talked about his bottom-up economic narrative, and this is what he said.
Ukisema ya kwamba tunataka kubadilisha uchumi wa Kenya kama vile tulikuwa tumepanga kutoka 2017 mpaka sasa, wakakuja wakasabotage ile mpango ya housing ambayo ingepatia vijana kazi, wakasabotage ile mambo ya agro processing value addition na mambo ya kilimo, wakasabotage maneno ya universal health coverage, wakituambia ati kubadilisha katiba ipatikane vyeo na kugawana mamlaka ni ya dharura na ni priority kuliko kupatia vijana mamilioni kazi na wale hawana biashara wafanye biashara. Na ndio tumepoteza miaka 4 tukizunguka, mara rege, mara katiba, mara tubadilishe. Leo mahakama imesema hiyo harakati yote ni illegal, unconstitutional, null and void. Na miaka 4.
And the ODM party also said in a statement last week through its Secretary Edwin Sifuna Honorable Farah that while it appreciates that it intends to uplift the lives of Kenyans from the depths of despair to the great heights of hope in terms of the economy, its mission is to put money into the pockets of the common wananchi. This seems to be a scramble for the downtrodden, the majority poor in the country. And when you look at the tone and the style of both parties here, William Ruto and the ODM party, in targeting the majority have-nots, is it a political springboard to reach the political goal, attain the political goal, or it's a case of a genuine economic model that seeks to uplift the lives of Kenyans?
The way I see it myself, I'll narrate to you an incident that happened to a friend of mine way back, way back when I was a young man. He was cornered in the 80s, in the early 80s. In the evenings, Nairobi used to be a fairly deserted place. Actually, 70s, because I went to school also not far from here. You would only see a few Asian families that are going around, and we had not, as Africans, the empowerment of an African to be there in this CBD was not that massive those days. So we used to stay in some hotels and on River Road and somewhere on the other side of River Road, Varma Road and the rest, and Gubati, I remember, and Hilltop. A friend of mine decided to take a walk. So he walked all the way into the CBD, right in there where Hilton is now. And he was somewhere in some of those alleys, he was caught by thugs. So they robbed him from everything that was in his pocket. When they walked away, he said, look, I don't have anything to even take a taxi to go to my hotel. So why do you leave me in this state? I think he had about 1,500, something like that. And these days, to take a taxi, we used to be less than 50 shillings to that destination. So they left. They said, "Kwenda, where are they?" I said, "Okay, but you leave me in a bad situation." They walked away, the thugs, and then one of them came back and gave him 100 shillings and said, "Now, so that we find you alive next time, and we still are able to rob you, just go home safely right now and don't walk around without money." So when you hear about the stuff that these people, both from both sides, right, you mentioned now.
Yes.
Ruto, multi-billionaire in his own right. Nobody knows how he's made that money. He didn't make that money selling chicken in Eldoret. Definitely made that massive amount of money through corruption, undoubtedly. Not through Amaco, the insurance company. The insurance company, insurance brokerage company. And then you give back a few wheelbarrows and you buy people maize, and you give a lady 100,000 shillings to be taken, it's all over media and the kind of stuff that is money that he's throwing around. It's similar to those thugs who said, okay, so that you don't die.
We'll still need you.
Yeah, we'll still need you, but walk around with money always. But now take this 100 shillings that will take you back home. You need this one is more than you need to get back to home. You get my point? So whenever people talk about the economy and how the common man is going to be taken care of, it's a way of saying that we will still maintain you in the poverty. The reality is different. The poverty of the common one will be maintained. The closest the common man came to becoming emancipated economically in this country was during the period of Kibaki, the 10 years of Kibaki. Not before that, not after that. Not since independence, when there was basically people who were in power took everything. Took everything. The land, took the businesses, and took everything. And not even after that with all the golden bags and the Anglo leasings and the Kendrains and the many and the SGR right now and all that stuff that's going on around here. So the people who are saying that we're going to buy wheelbarrows is just like the 100 shillings that was given to that poor guy so that tomorrow that you can still get their votes again. You understand my point? So I don't think anybody has a genuine interest of this country at heart.
Both ends of the political
Both ends of that. You mentioned two ends right now. None of them. Because if any of them had that interest, one was the prime minister for a long time, he would have been able to implement a lot, which were basically his own ideals. Kibaki did a fantastic job. I can assure you on that. And Davadi was a
finance minister.
Was a finance minister one time, and my friend Kalonzo was also in that government, and there was a lot of efforts that were made, hell of a lots of efforts to try and win the trust of the international community, the lending institutions and everything else. At least so that we can get the ratings right. And then we are able to even domestically borrow, even borrow from outside. But maintain the relationship.
Okay.
I don't think borrowing is really going to solve a problem in this country. As broke as we are, I still believe that you need a dose of what Magufuli did in his own country. Without borrowing, he resuscitated the airline, Air Tanzania. He
infrastructure.
Put up what they call six ports. And a couple of them are state-of-the-art. And thousands and thousands of asphalt roads, you see what I mean? Bridges and you know, go to Dar es Salaam right now and you'll be shocked. You think you're in another place, not in Africa still. You flyovers and
interchanges.
Interchanges, flyovers that are one on top of the other and one below. It's an amazing thing. And he did all that without having to borrow a coin from anybody. He chased the Chinese the same way he also did not boycott but refused to borrow from the West. So basically, and he transformed completely the mining sector, and it became owned by Tanzanians. I mean, money was flowing into Tanzania.
Okay.
So you could not steal from the country, not even, you see, the billions that our own political class and the leadership steals from here. There is trillions that are being stolen always by foreigners. You know what I mean? All our resources are going in that direction. Although we are not that much endowed ourselves with minerals and the rest, but for countries like Tanzania, DRC, Somalia, Ethiopia, the minerals abound.
Okay, so we need a Kibaki moment.
We need a Kibaki moment. And we need people who can be trusted. I hold it that, I don't know, there are many other people who also can be trusted, but I hold it that the OKA alliance, Kalonzo can be trusted. You see, people don't talk about Kalonzo being somebody who stole anything from the state. He is not rich, he's poor. You see what I mean? Ordinarily, if he's somebody who stole it, he would be swimming in billions of shillings. Davadi has had a history in this country also in which he worked very well, very well as a Minister of Finance and literally brought sense back into the finance sector in this country during that time. And he did it. He's so skillful, you cannot imagine. Those skills are still required. You understand my point?
So I guess when you weigh the political outfits against the other, then the safe bet is on the One Kenya Alliance, according to you?
Absolutely. The safe bet is on the One Kenya Alliance, and the safe bet is, let me tell you one thing. This country has a problem. We have a clash, or a crisis of a value system. They like people who abuse others. They like people who are heroic, people who steal and flush the money out. And you're seen as but when somebody doesn't insult, doesn't call names, is humble, then they say he is watermelon, he is weak, he is coward, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But the arrogance and the for lack of a better word, that razzmatazz, that they elude these ones, and the money and the choppers and everything else, is the audacity of corruption. Audacity, you can be so audacious that you steal so much, and you still abuse people and can go out there and say, I'm giving money out to people, and you give out peanuts here and there.
Okay.
I mean that basically has dotted our political life in this country. And we need a difference in that.
Okay, and a difference in that, and because it's very important that the political class is often mandated by the people who give them the authority. Yeah. And the World Bank, in a report that it analyzed the events between 1990 and 2010, entitled "The State Capture," it said more than 20 billion Kenya shillings, no, 360 billion Kenya shillings, that was siphoned from the public coffers. That's in a period of 20 years. That is 10 years and then 10 years, Moi and Kibaki presidencies. And in under 8 years, that is 7.5 years, a parliamentary committee finding detailed how 120 billion Kenya shillings was lost under the Jubilee government within 2 months. And perhaps when the electorate give the mandate, they often expect service delivery. That's why in a nutshell, the NHS worked for the UK at the height of the pandemic. And after 1945, many European states became social welfare states. And so I'll take the example of South Africa and the responsibility by the political establishment. And here is the cartoon edition by Sano on the People Daily. And it's in line with that. And it's the country that is bleeding because of the violence. And the cat perhaps dotted or shaded in black is asking, other African countries help South Africa. But given what has transpired and the concerns that the government of President Cyril Ramaphosa had, that this was planned for and organized by political leaders in the country. So the point is, Honorable Father Malem, that you have mentioned, the political leadership. Chinua Achebe clearly said that all things rise and fall with leadership. Yes. So, and what has been very evident is the poverty and inequality levels in South Africa as a result of that. Many say Juma's, imprisonment, Jacob Zuma's imprisonment is just a legal process.
It's only the spark.
Rather, there has been an ongoing public resentment. Is then perhaps what you have mentioned, the taking advantage of this mass populace who are poor, perhaps lead us to the way South Africa is and what's experiencing today?
Yes, indeed, yes. I must say that I did not expect the new African, post-apartheid African leadership in South Africa would do things the way Mugabe did in Zimbabwe. But I expected them to go on a progressive, systematic, genuine empowerment of the majority black masses in that country, including the acquisition and redistribution of land, without compromising on the big, the big farmers have a way of growing the economy much more than the smallholders. The smallholders are mostly for subsistence purposes. But the desire for them to run away from the Bantustanism on the olden days, in which all the land, 60–70% of the land, arable land itself, is in the hands of a small minority, has got to be mitigated in a sense in which it's done gradually. It's done. We did it in Kenya here. We did it very, very systematically in Kenya. The only mistake in Kenya is that it left the hands of the white settlers and went into the imagined African elite hands. So it was never that broad, well spread out attention to the broader masses themselves who are disempowered during the colonial period, all those years, 70 years of colonial period. So in South Africa, they never did that. So the African in South Africa is still in the ghettos. They're still in the townships. They call them townships. They're still suffering like hell. And Zuma didn't do much about it.
Thabo
Mbeki did not do much about it. Of course, Mandela was effectively there only for 2 years, just to see this transition himself. So you really can't blame him for it. But I think he also had a role in creating and basically building the foundation for that, even if it's not the effectiveness of that. Once you build the foundation, it's very easy to grow the house, to build the house more. So there is a problem there. I know, because the foreigners who went there as refugees and who had that exposure themselves from their own countries of doing trade and business and the rest of them. And
Majority Africans.
Majority Africans, mainly Somalis and Ethiopians and Eritreans and
Nigerians,
Ghanaians, they're all there. Who were welcomed very much, because all these countries participated also in the decolonization of Southern Africa. And you must give credit to the governments, the successive governments of South Africa, for having consciousness of that and also helping these people who ran away from conflicts in their own countries, because the same reverse was there in the beginning, where South Africans, Zuma used to travel all over the world on a Somali, what do you call, diplomatic passport. And the Somalis basically with a Somali name for your information, not Zuma, his name, because of the manner that the guy was a serious intelligence guy and was doing a fantastic job for ANC those days. So the point I'm trying to tell you right now is that, yes, of Kenya, yeah. The only thing that worries me about this country, the only thing that worries me about my own country here, is that the elite the brilliant middle class elite, the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, the people who basically have a certain measure of comfort themselves and who are running their own businesses are not taken into politics.
Okay.
Those are the ones who should have given who should have been the heart and the soul of the political emancipation in this country, because they understand. They all came from humble backgrounds, went to good schools, you know what I mean? And government schools. I mean, went to Alliance, went to Mangu, went to all the different schools in this country, in Nairobi and the rest. And basically, from the poverty of their own parents, were able to transform themselves. So they still have, without stealing anything from the country, you know what I mean, from the national coffers, as opposed to the politicians. Now, these are the guys who should have been keen to go into the political class in this country. You understand my point? To become the members of parliament, to become the senators,
okay.
and to be there out there to then craft and transform the economic situation of the bottom of the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid. You see what I mean? They never did that. They never did that. And that's where I think when we should encourage right now all these brilliant Kenyans who are doing their own jobs and their own businesses very well need to give back something to the country by running for. So what happens? Losers with fake certificates are the ones who are who are the MPs and the senators and the governors. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And these are the ones who basically are there right now, determining how you're going. You and me should be governed. So if the clever ones do not enter into governance, don't take the chance and don't take a plunge, head first plunge into running this country, then you must be content by being run by the losers.
Okay, and in this case, those who have been given the mandate.
And the drug, what they call traders, and the ones who bring counterfeit goods into the country, the ones who made money the easy way. Okay, you see what I mean? Those are the ones who still come into politics and become your governors, your whatever, and everything else.
Okay, so let's now finish up with this cartoon, because it's also very important that Stano has this in the People Daily, and here's what's coming up. This is 2022 politics. But above the ballot box, which is firmly locked, are issues of concern. They include violence, hate speech, and tribalism. Now, the Blackett again poses the question, should we continue with the journey or stop? And Wanjiku is wondering the reason as to why this is happening. And we have experienced violence in the Juja parliamentary by-elections in Kiambaa County. There are cases of hate speech where the NCIC, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, has raised the red flag. And the ethnicity or tribalism seems to have been dotting our political establishment since independence in the country. Honorable Farah, then, are you concerned by the concerns Wanjiku has in that picture?
Oh, yes.
Of cases of violence, tribalism, and injustice?
Oh, yes.
How do we mitigate that? Do you feel the NCIC is up to the task?
Well, look, when a system rots, when a fish rots at the head, then the rest of the body also will rot. I remember sitting in meetings with the former President Kibaki, in which he would call his own government officers and ask you to ask them questions, and they make the explanation in front of you as members of parliament. And he will take them to task. And he will direct them to do the right thing immediately. And you can rest assured, those actions are going to be taken in a matter of hours. Because we saw it ourselves. We have a situation right now, the president,
That was in 2017.
When he flips his hands like that. You're given an undertaking on a major administration of justice issue. And you're given a firm undertaking by the president, it's going to be done. When Moi tells you it will be done, it shall be done. It's not it may be done, it shall be done, and it shall be done ASAP. Kibaki the same thing also. And I'm sure Kenyatta was even...
Kenyatta 1.
Kenyatta 1, yes. Kenyatta 1 was... He never gave roadside instructions. He never, but whenever delegations or people went to him and he is convinced that there's an unfair treatment of a section of the population, he gave instructions, and those instructions were adhered to the letter. Immediately. Right now, what do we have? One, a president and a deputy president who are at war with one another. You see what I mean?
Okay.
A government that essentially you don't know where it's going and where it's coming from. President who gives you the undertakings on anything, and then, much later you expect things to happen and nothing happens. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It is bad. We say in our language, it's the doom befalls a family. Because the head of the family is weak.
Mm-hmm.
Weak in the sense that his words are not firm, and demands for results, and if those results are not there, there are consequences. We say, I will hesitate to complete that thing because it's an interesting thing, but it has a dimension also.
Okay.
It actually says that a soft mouth, soft in the sense that not authoritative,
mm-hmm.
and a soft lower section
mm-hmm.
for a man
mm-hmm.
is the destruction of the family.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because of course, if the men are soft from the hip downwards, then of course you're not going to generate that family. There's no procreation.
There's no procreation.
There's no procreation there. So the family is doomed. You get my point? The family is doomed. So you have to have procreation, and at the same time you have to have
authority
in the family.
Which translates to able leadership.
Able leadership.
And perhaps is that why or more or less the absence of that, as to why we seem to be uncertain about violence and tribalism in 2022?
Nobody cares.
Would it be different if Moi were in power?
Well, I don't see Moi being in power today.
Why, if he were?
Not because of age. I mean, Moi would, 10 years ago, Moi was already pretty much an invalid. But in his heydays, up to the time when he left,
mm-hmm. 70s, yeah.
He was in
late 70s.
I don't think so. He left in 2000. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. From 2020 to
2002 to 2020.
Yes, 2000.
18 years.
Yeah. 2002 to, he was born in 2020. He could have been born earlier. Those days they were not keeping a record.
1920.
1920, but from 1920 to 2002 was what? 82.
82.
Very strong. Very firm.
Plus 1800 years.
I served in Parliament when he was there. And for 10 years, we agreed and disagreed, but interacted. Very firm. Very, very firm. I even saw him after he
retired.
He retired, and we met in Washington, D.C., of all places. And he hosted me one night for dinner at the Madison Hotel. And the wisdom that was there, the heart, the bleeding heart for the country, the fear that things might not go very well for the country, because he loved this country so much. He didn't care so much who was in leadership, but as long as it was a good leadership. So when you sit with him there, even as a former president, mm-hmm. you can see that air of authority, the air of firmness, the air of conviction. He is convinced on certain things and will tell you this is the way. And a lot of it right now is when it's coming to pass. For example, he did not entertain at all the meddling of the Western countries in our own internal affairs. Because he used to say Africans don't know what they are doing. And those days it was it was fashionable for intellectuals, pretty well educated people, to hobnob with the so-called these rosy values, Western values, accountability, human rights, democracy, which of course freedom. They don't even have it back in their own backyard. I mean, look at what happens in the States to a black man who buys a bicycle for his son from the supermarket. And even before they get to know whether he has a receipt or not, he's already clobbered by the police because of racism. So is that what you call rule of law? No.
Or perhaps if the demonstrators who took over the Congress, 6th January 2021, if they were black or Latinos,
they will all be mowed down.
Or Muslims.
Yeah. So basically, he used to tell Africans, you don't know what the West thinks about you.
Okay.
So many years later is when that realization is coming hard onto every African. Now is when we're seeing exactly. And he saw it. He saw it many years before he left the scene. So what I'm basically trying to say is that you need serious, far-sighted statesmen and women in this country to be able to protect the little we have and to build or grow on the dreams of Kenyans and aspirations of Kenyans.
Okay.
Do we have that coming? No.
Okay. No. And what perhaps after leaving power, as we finish up, and thank you for coming, Dr. Sally Kosgei, who has been by Moi's side because of her sharp mind in recalling events. Even Moi turned back to her when he had forgotten his notebook, had said that Moi insisted that the country needs strong statesmen, not weak reactionaries.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
she said that in her book after leaving power.
By the way, that night when I had dinner with him, she was there with us.
Yes.
And Lin Jiru were there. Yeah. And of course, always the man was in a class of his own. You know, he's never gone to university, but he is better than any professor in any field, you know, when it comes to governance. He was gifted, and he wanted to very jealously guard the independence of Africans. He did not want Africans to be cheated by through the back door into some kind of a neo-colonialist mindset. And that's what we have right now. That's what we have right now.
And of course, talking about Moi will be a whole day, a whole affair. Thank you so much for coming, Honorable Farah Maalim, and thank you for the insightful thoughts on the developments in the country as we make sense of the developments around us. And thank you to you too for watching. The hashtag has been NewDayKE, and we'll see you on Wednesday at the same time. Good afternoon.